What's up, everybody? I hope you're all having a fantastic day. I'm Jake with Rig Knife Company. I'm in the shop late today. I'm going to be in the shop late for the next few weeks, getting prepped for blade show. And I've got a bunch of blades that I need to get profiled, blanked. So let's just go ahead and dive into it. And I'll be doing a heat treat here on this live as well. Nitro E. But first, let's get these blanked so I can get them started. Get them wire wheeled and lay out die so I can grind them tomorrow and heat treat. I got 22 some odd blades here. Run it. Oh, check it out. What's up, Steven? Good to see you, bud. Falcon. Lineman XL. This is for a bucket knife. Insulated glove, that's why it's so big. I'm just grabbing from the pile. I've got just about one of every model. Tradition Junior. Roughneck. Lineman standard. Well, I don't have it here anymore. She already took it to the wire wheel. The Lineman XL. I was going to compare it. a mantis. And she brought that Lineman XL back. This is what she's doing with it. Taking a wire wheel on the edges. Here's the standard Lineman. Them over the top of one another. You can see the size difference. Blade is just about the same. This one has a shiner and about 1.5 inches, 2 inches more handle. Well, about 1.5 inches more handle. Alright, what's that? About a first strike. First strike. Pretty sweet. About a huntsman. Gotta have one of those. Huntsman. Gotta have one, at least. The Revelation. Revelation. Jack. This is the jack. Wash. What's next? Adventure Junior. Adventure Junior. Since we're on that one, do the full-size adventure. There's the full-size adventure in comparison with the Adventure Junior. They are not a whole bunch different. They're really the same knife, just different sizes, but the biggest difference is the stock. Adventure Junior uses 1/8 inch, and the full-size Adventure uses 3/16. It's quite a bit of difference. You can see Adventure and Adventure Junior. Rambler. Wrong. Here's the Hornet. exploring it. This one is the splicer. Mosquito. This is the Hawk. Set them out there. Thank you. Mustang. Rambler. This is the Tradition, full size. Cut close on time for that oven. Kiln. This is the Tribute tempered style knife. Pretty dang sweet blade. Let's start splitting slices. Last one, and then we'll do a heat treat. Walkabout. So, that right there is the end of blanking. This is the end of blanking for everything that I'm going to be taking to Blade Show. I might do one or two more if I get a little bit more time. That'll never happen, so this will be about it. Now, everything that I just did, all 22 of those were 80 CRV2. I already did all of the Nitro V, which I have more of. So bear with me for a second. All right. So the missus has been taking all of those blades and wire wheeling that little grinding burr off. That's what we want. We want them smooth and clean because I've got to lay out, die them, mark them, and then grind them because the 80 CRV2 gets ground before heat treat. The Nitro V does not. Now, we have a round of Nitro V in the kiln that we have to do. But I'm not quite set up for it just yet. My plates have been running all day, so I put them in a cold place. They're a little too cold, so I'm going to warm them up in this water. Like I said, just bear with me and you'll see heat treat. It's not a process that I can just get started on. I got to get set up for as I'm going along. Now, I will show you what I've got going on over here in cryo. We've got some snowy goodness here. I'm going to poke at it and break it up. And I'm going to pull some pieces out. Now this was all powder, but it just clumped up. But I want to get down to what's underneath. Save a little bit, put back on top. Just like that. Alright, so now, don't want my glasses getting frosted. I'll put my glasses on for UV protection in that kiln, because the kiln is running about 1950 degrees. Enough to screw your eyes up if you look into it long enough. So, after quench, between the plates, they go immediately into cryo as fast as I can get them in there. This is a revelation. This is an adventure in 5/30 seconds, which I'll be doing more of. This is a Signature Series blade in 3/16. This is a Tribute. And another Revelation. All of these are for Blade Show. So everything that I'm doing from here on out is Blade Show prep. So if you've got an order, it's going to be sitting there until just after Blade Show. So now I've got to remix this. It's clumpy on top. So I take a big old powerful drill. And turn it back into powder really quickly, really easy. Now by adding alcohol, I'm loosening the mixture up. Reducing the dry ice from a harder, drier form into a more of a slurry, which is easier to get the blades in, but not thin. I don't want a thin slurry. We've got about 5 minutes. There's our slurry. Now we'll save all of what we pulled off of the top. I'll recrush it into a nice powder. When everything is in there, then I will snow it over again and insulate that slurry. You understand? All right, so now we got to do some crazy stuff. We got to quench some blistering hot aluminium. All right, these are just the right temperature. I don't want them wet. So, I'm going to put my plates back in. Find the hole. Bear with me, we'll do a heat treat in about 3 minutes. Go. All right, 2 minutes. And we are at our time mark for that run in the kiln. Alright, just make sure that it's not wet. Alright, and one more thing I gotta go grab is my cooling plates. So, we decided to quit the office here. Took it back home since we have a place to do it now. These plates right here are now in the fridge in the other portion of the shop, which I need so desperately. Now, after the first quench, these plates are gonna get warm, really warm. Not super hot with what I'm doing. I got a bunch of 1/8 inch in there. The thicker the steel, the longer it takes to cool off. The 1/8 inch chills pretty quick. So this right here has been in the freezer, both of these plates, and I will put them in between those plates between quenches. So it's time to quench. And let's see how that goes. It's gonna be noisy. Let me try and get you set up somewhere cool where you can see everything. That'll be about it right there. Now I'm gonna put some ear protection on because this gets really, really noisy with the air. So we've got to get these guys out from about 1950 degrees and get them down below 1,000 within 3 minutes, or within about a minute and a half, really. It ain't gonna take any more than about a minute, and they'll be down below about 500 degrees. We'll pull them out of this, get them even colder so we don't shock them, and then put them into the cryo, that little mush, dry ice slurry that you just saw me do. Here we go. Put my gloves on. One. Two. 3. 4. Alright, we'll let that come back up to temperature. Alright. Touching. Got plenty of space. And I will run them down tight. And then I'll also put this clamp on and make sure that I'm not getting any gapping on one side of the plate. Because you see the jaws are only about half of the plate. They're less than half of the plate. Alright. That'll do right there. That only took about 40 seconds. And now they are holdable. They're not super hot anymore. So what I'm gonna do, get these plates back to cool off again. I'm gonna put my cold plates in there. Just like that. Now these outside plates, the inside plates are going to absorb all that heat. It's going to spread it out. Be good to go. All right. And get them out of the foil packets. One. It's a Tradition Junior. Two. The Adventure Junior. mosquito. Get out of there, Danny. And the wasp. We should still have a mantis and a tradition junior and a rambler left. Should be 7 in there. All right, so now these guys are sub like 100 degrees, and I need to get that other one out as quick as possible. For now, I'm gonna just take these over to some cold water and get them cold. I don't want to shock them by sticking them in that slurry when they're super hot, or they'll warp really bad. Now, they'll warp right now until you do the transformation. Drawback. Come on now. All right. Now, I'm going to check them for straight and get them as straight as I can get them. And as soon as they're straight as I want them, or as I can see them, I'll stick them down into that slurry. Blade down. And see, you guys aren't even seeing me. So I'm using my vise here to counterbend them if they're warped just slightly, and they always do. If you cool them weird, or if they get cooler on one side than the other side while they're cooling down, like this is post quench. So it's important to get them into that cryo as quick as possible, and I mean as quick as possible. That one's good to go. So here's what they do in the cryo is they'll sit there and bubble like that for a little while, and then they'll frost over. Now, our plates are warm now. We're going to get good to go, and we're going to run it again. It's only been an extra 4 minutes. Everything's good until about 10, 12 minutes. Then things start to change. So we got to get them out now. This is round 2. I believe there's only 3 left in there. I could be wrong. Only 3. 1, that's a mantis. 2, that's a tradition junior. And 3, a rambler. Just like that. All right. Blast them. For those 3, after that, pull them out. You can see that's what they look like. The mantis. and a Rambler. Now, these guys are plenty cold enough. They are sub 200 degrees. These ones are a little warmer. So we're gonna go and take and cool these off in the agua. Now I don't want to shock them from the hot temperature to an extreme cold temperature, which is the slurry, which we're trying to achieve about minus 95 degrees. Now, that's only achievable if every bit of the slurry is just right. You've got to use a high percentage alcohol for that. And as you can see, I have my insulated cup, which you can't see the insulated cup. So it's a Yeti cup, double-walled insulated cup, inside an insulated bucket. And then after I put everything in there, I will cap it over with some dry ice. This guy is not straight. See that? Not a problem, because they're really easy to straighten in this stage. You can actually just bend them by hand. And you can overbend it too, just like that. It's too much. Now, I'm not going for scientifically straight right here. I have a surface grinder for that. If it's warped just the tiniest little bit after cryo, well, I'll show you what can be done for that. That's pretty easy. It has to be done, if you're going to correct it, before the transformation drawback, which is the first drawback after all of your quenching, cryo treatment, yada yada. So you can kind of see this guy's got a little bend to it. And you can see I took it out with that little bit of effort right there. That's how easily heat-treated Nitro V and AEBL 14C28, 13C26. There's a lot of different other steels that will do that, but these specifically will do that. The ingot style stainless steels. All right, get them down into that slurry. Let them chill in there with their homies. And I'm going to take my wrench and crush this all back up and give it a nice dusting. Just like that. See there? You can just barely see the ends of the blade sticking out. And in an hour, they'll come out. Most of the time they'll be straight. Sometimes there will be some warpage. Certain blade shapes warp more than others also, like Revelations. Now this one's going to need the strip club. That one looks good. 3/16 stuff doesn't warp much. Thicker stuff, Tribute, thank God, looks good. And the Signature Series, it's a little wonky, but I'm actually going to cut some thickness off of this, so I'm going to leave it. I'm not going to counterbend it. It's too thick. I want it a little thinner. That'll be really easy to correct with the surface grinder. Alright, so the key there is that everything went down really fast. The quench happened really fast. After the quench, they went into cryo really fast. inside a few minutes. That's the key to achieving peak hardness. Nice and straight. It's an adventure. Nice and straight. One of these revelations is going to have to go to the strip club. It's this one. It's got a little wiggle in the middle. That I don't want to try and grind out. But I can get it right out. That one is super straight. And this guy, you can see, well, maybe you can't see, it's just right, it's about from right here forward. It's just got a tiny little bit on the end, and it's not a big deal. It's straight all up until that point. Straight here all the way back. So I'm good with that. I'll surface grind the rest of that to super flat. No problemo. That's what I want. That's pretty cool, huh? Signature series. Big bird's head grip. I was gonna do like a double hollow grind, a hollow grind across the top. I don't know. So I have a bunch of blades in the oven. Not kiln, the oven. We just emptied the kiln. That oven right there is tempering some other blades, other Nitro V blades. I only have one more round of Nitro V to heat treat for Blade Show. One more heat treat, and that is a walkabout and a first strike. You can't see them, they're just big old foil packets, but that's what they look like before they go in. A nice, neat, clean foil packet. What I shoot for is fitting on my plates. That's plenty of room. I like to put about that much room between them. Voila. Those will go in. They're the same thickness now. If you couldn't figure that one out, and I didn't really explain it either, but everything in between the plates has got to be the same thickness. If it's not the same thickness, then something won't touch. So I usually, when I do runs, this is what I was talking about a long time ago, talking about buddy blades. You guys might have seen me come out with some randoms throughout time, like an extra revelation in Nitro V. What happens is somebody will order one and I won't have an extra in the same stock. So instead of just doing one blade, I do at least two at minimum. I usually try and do 3 or 4 or fill the rack up with 6 or 7. But for the most part, I gotta have at least another one, and I call them buddy blades. It's gotta be the same thickness. So if I came out with something on the website that was completely random, I probably had another one that was ordered. So for Blade Show, I will give you guys a sneak peek of something. I already have a few blades hiding. I have a good bit of eagle. I have 10 eagles left. I have 4 hawks left. And I also set back a falcon special, a mantis special, and a baseline burgundy tradition junior. I have a tradition junior. This one's got some layout dye splattered on it. This is a heat treated blade, Nitro V. That's an extra just sitting there. And then I've got this guy that I've got to go work on. Some of you guys have seen this one. I've had it hanging around for a while. I did this one a while back. Just never finished it. My plan was to finish it for Blade Show. So this will be a signature series, double hollow grind, pretty cool. And then I did something cool the other day ago, another signature series. I wanted it at minimum 2, but I've got 3. This one I filed a grapevine file pattern on the back. That has to be done before heat treat. But that's pretty cool. Signature series. Probably number 12, I think. The next one will be number 11, and that will be this one. So that's pretty cool. I'll do a flat grind with a sweep and plunge like the Revelation. Now, sneak peek into something new. Entirely new. Except at the same time it's not. I'm gonna go turn this fan off because I'm not a fan. All right. Thank you for your continued silence. All right. A long time ago, when I was doing Bloodline, hold on one second. Yeah. So this is a box full of random blades and a couple of screw ups and some extras, and I don't even remember, honestly. There's just so much junk in here. So a long time ago, I did a knife with Bloodline that I called the Cub. And I had a bunch of them water jet cut, and this is one of them. ADC RV2. It's a skeletonized handle. My kind of contention with the Izula. It's too thick. These are 3/16. I should have done them in 5/32. Wasn't really a thing then. But I have a bunch of these blades. Now, I actually have a bunch more of them that are stamped with BLK, Bloodline Knives. And, you know, whatever. I'm not really wanting to put them out there because I'm not Bloodline Knives anymore. They're rebranded, so. But, like a dip, well, not like a dip. I was just going to do it a long time ago. I stamped a whole bunch of them. I got a whole bunch of them here. These are all stamped. However, I still had a reserve of some that were not stamped. 17 of them. And this will be a Blade Show release. I don't know what I'm going to call it yet. If I'm going to call it the Cub still or what. But these first 17 of them will be special because I'm not going to do the 3/16 stock anymore. These are 3/16 ADC RV2. I don't want to do that. It's a little too thick for me. And I was doing them in a flat grind. However, I'm going to do these in a big old deep hollow grind, and I'll make them super slicey. And then they'll be worthy. But for what I was doing them on flat grind. It's just not tall enough. It's not a wide enough blade to get the angle that I want. I'm going to go to a 5/32, maybe even an 1/8 inch, and start running these. I'm going to start running these. But these are all water jet cut, and Miss VGKC has been here in the shop for a lot of today, and she did a bunch of chamfering on the inside of this cut. It's kind of hard to see. I tried to work out how to get these right last time I was doing them, which was a long time ago, and about 8 years ago now, probably. Well, I was trying to tumble them. I was trying to tumble them with a coarse media to polish and chamfer all the edges. Didn't work. I tried. Hell, I left them in there for... I left one in there just to see for like 2 or 3 days, and it never got past a certain point. However, I did do that post heat treat. If I'd have done that pre-heat treat when they were soft like this, it would have been no problem, I think. But then if I have to do any work to it after heat treat, then it's not going to be consistent, you know, if I have to like grind it down. But the first 17 of these are going to be hollow ground, and they're going to be Cerakoted. They'll have, some of them will have a paracord handle already on them, but for the most part, they'll have enough paracord to wrap the handle and a sheath and a neck lanyard as well. That's the way I used to send them. So I will be reviving this knife and releasing it at Blade Show. It'd be pretty sweet. You guys saw it here first. All right, so let's go through this box since we're here. We can just sit here and talk. going through this box. Here is a first strike that isn't that old, but this one I broke in heat treat. The tip was warped just slightly, and I waited too long to try and straighten it because I was sitting there talking, and I tried to straighten it again and it snapped. So I have a philosophy of it. If it's meant to do it, it will do it. It may have had a problem. It probably didn't, honestly. That was all user error.